So Sony is not sure there's going to be a PlayStation 5. Are you shocked? Are you shocked? I mean, we already know that the 4.5, the Neo, is going to be coming out. We already know that. Talked about it in the last podcast with my pal Ian, who's, by the way, don't panic, he's on vacation. He'll be back in the future with Pat. I know I'm bad by myself. But in an interview, this is according to Tech Radar, there was a Game Informer video podcast, and Lauren Lanning, the mind behind Oddworld, revealed that a senior executive at Sony indicated that PlayStation 5 was a question of if rather than when. And the executive was Shuhei Yoshida, head of Sony's worldwide studios, who indicated that the future of the PlayStation, which is what we said in the podcast last time with the announcement of Neo, would not be these huge, upgrades every 5 or 6 years, like between the PS2 to PS3 to PS4, but these smaller ones every, 2.5, 3 years to push you along, like basically upgrading a computer, like we talked about, how like you'll be fine with your PS4, you don't have to get the Neo, but that Neo is going to have the shinier graphics, and the better frame rate, and maybe a free hand job. No, not a handy. So this makes sense for a couple reasons to do this. If you're Sony, the R&D to put into a new system every 4 years, you basically probably have to work on it. These things are in development for a couple of years. Is absolutely massive. The R&D, absolutely massive. So these little smaller systems, you don't have to like reinvent the wheel each time. You can start with basically the same console shell and a lot of the same parts, and just swap out, parts here and there. Oh, better RAM this year, or slightly overclocked CPU, better GPU. That you don't have to redo the entire architecture. That's going to be set going forward. Well, which makes sense because these are freaking computers. We were talking about everything's a computer now. Everything's a computer or like a droid device. Basically, like people are saying that the NX is basically going to be like having a giant droid console, that runs. But it's computer stuff at this point. Everything's a computer. The Xbox One is a computer. The PS4 is a computer. PS 4.5 is just going to be a slightly better computer than what you had before. The only question, though, is if Microsoft will follow suit. And I say yeah. Because, again, remember that when these consoles come out originally, they lose money. PlayStation consoles lose money. The Microsoft ones lose money. So by doing this, you can charge still a hefty amount. The PS 4.5 is probably going to still cost $350 or $300. And all those parts are 4 years old by the time it comes out. So the R&D's done. They're already massively produced. There's so much cheaper to put into that new console, and then you can just like throw in. Oh, we'll throw in a chip that's slightly faster. It doesn't really cost that much anyway, and we'll just charge $100 more than the last system, and we're making like $80 more per console, pure profit or whatever it's going to be. So it just makes sense to do that. Makes a lot of sense. And I'm not wistful about it. I've been saying for at least 3-4 years that this is the last console. It's going to be the last console generation because of that. Like I said, they're glorified computers. And plus, people forget about game streaming. Always forget about streaming. Like more and more functions in the future with computers and with software, that the computation and CPU power is going to be done off your computer and just online somewhere in the cloud. I don't know how it works. I'm not sure the science behind it. Well, but that makes sense. So 10 years from now, your PS4 or PS 4.79 and Xbox 1.4 might just be like sort of streaming stations to some degree, doing some processing on the hardware, but most of it will be done somewhere else on the interwebs. I'm down. Why not? Whatever keeps the cost down, that's fine. So when it's all said and done, it's funny to me just because people always said, oh, Nintendo's going to be dead and gone, no more consoles. They're going to be the only one left standing after all this is said and done. Because they're the only one, remember, that has the most potent first-party titles. And they're never going to be a software-only company. Just stop it. That would be their death knell. Ask Sega about that. Jeez, well, there was mismanagement there too, but, Nintendo's going to be making consoles forever. Because that's what their game is. So, all right, well, Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Neo does. But I think it's going to do better than you think, especially if you haven't bought a PS4 yet. If I haven't bought one yet and I want one, I might as well buy the Neo version instead of the older one for like $100 more. And that's what they're counting on. Idiots like me.